Hey everybody, welcome back to Perpetual News. I just wanted to go over this video because Alan Lichtman has come out and with his prediction of who's going to be President of the United States 2024. He predicted Trump would win in 2016, Biden in 2020, and today we're going to find out who he supports this election year. I believe I already know.
There's a lot of hoopla about
I'm going to watch this
these
video.
days.
Here he is.
Not for me.
There's Alan. Good old Alan.
See that guy in the red shirt? That's Alan Lichtman, 77-year-old Alan Lichtman. And he's racing in the qualifiers for the Senior Olympics. But there's another kind of race.
You can just tell by him.
Just as qualified for.
He's just the most history nerd motherfucker ever.
Almost every presidential election since 1984.
And today, Alan Lichtman's ready to tell us who's going to win
Oh my
in
God.
2024.
Oh, Alan. Dear God.
You see, you may think Alan's just a jock.
Well, I was a steeplechase champion in the 1970s.
Name is Dr. Allan Lichtman.
Oh, look at
Well,
that.
he's actually kind of a
Edge.
nerd, a history professor, and a quiz show champion. These days, he's on a different kind of winning streak. To make his presidential predictions, Alan's model ignores the polls and the pundits.
It hinges on 13 keys that I developed in 1981 with my geophysicist friend Vladimir Kailas-Hora. It's based on 120 years of presidential election outcomes before then.
Told you, he's a nerd. Alan's model was one of the few that called it for Trump in 2016.
Donald Trump is going to win.
And in 2020, Alan got it right again.
Trump will lose the White House.
The race was tight, but the keys were right.
So let's get to how these keys actually work.
They are 13 big picture, true, false questions
This-
that tap into
this is so funny.
the strength and performance
He's such a
of the
weird
White
guy.
House party. And only two keys.
He's just a weird guy. He came up with this system in 1981, like he said, and he's been sticking with it ever since. I gotta say, I just want to clarify, he did not correctly predict the 2000 election. He predicted Al Gore to win. However, in Al Gore, we know that there was some election interference that definitely could have hinged on, maybe some illegal things happening, such as the hanging chads incident and the fact that Jeb Bush, the brother of the man who was being elected president, was in fact in charge of the election in Florida, the deciding state in that election. So perhaps George W. Bush technically kind of stole the election. I'm not saying that officially. I'm just saying, there was maybe a little bit of interference. If Florida was decided by 500 votes, that is what tipped the 2000 election. So perhaps he got them all right, and perhaps he didn't. I'm not sure.
Have anything to do with the candidates.
But Alan, 2024 is an unprecedented election year. Can your 13 keys really call it right?
The keys absolutely will work. They are the constant northern star of political prediction.
All right. Time
He has
to
a lot
run
of
these
confidence,
keys
that's
and
for
find
sure.
out who will be the next president of the United States, according to Alan.
But first, let me change into something a little more comfortable.
Okay, Alan. Sounds good, buddy.
Number 1. The White House party gained House seats between midterm elections.
The Democrats did better than expected in 2022, but they still lost House seats, so the key is false.
Remember, a false key is good for Trump. Number 2. The incumbency key. The sitting president is running for re-election.
Biden withdrew from the race, costing the Democrats this key. It is false.
Wait, you're saying it would have helped the Democrats if Biden stayed in?
If Biden stayed in, they would have salvaged this one key. That's all.
Okay. Moving on for now. Number 3. The White House party avoided a primary contest.
The Democrats finally got smart and united overwhelmingly behind Vice President Harris, so the key is true.
A true key. That moves Harris off the starting block. Number 4. There's no third-party challenger.
RFK Jr. has dropped out of the race, and no other third-party candidate is anywhere close to the 10% polling threshold needed to turn this key. It's true.
4 keys in, and it's neck and neck. Let's keep going. Number 5. The short-term economy is strong.
Look, despite all the loose talk about a so-called vibe session, the economy is not in recession, so this key is true.
That's
Number
true.
6.
Everybody thinks it
Long-term
is.
economic
It's actually
growth
doing
during
quite
this
good.
presidential term has been at least as good as the last 2 terms.
Growth during the Biden term is far ahead of growth during the previous 2 terms, so this key is clearly true.
Number 7. The White House has made major changes to national policy.
Rejoining the Paris Accords on climate change, the CHIPS bill, the infrastructure bill, the Inflation Reduction and Climate Change bill.
All of
Clearly,
those are good.
The key is true.
Yeah.
Number 8. There is no sustained social unrest during the term.
There have been sporadic protests, but nothing approaching the massive, sustained social unrest needed to turn this key, so it's true.
But schools are just going back
True.
to session. With new protests, couldn't this key flip?
Yes, there are a lot of protesters upset with Biden's policies in the Middle East. But now with Harris, not Biden, front and center, that has dampened social unrest.
Number 9. The White House is untainted by scandal.
Oh, my favorite key, the scandal key. And Republicans have been trying for years to pin a scandal on President Biden and come up empty. So the key is true.
But come on, Alan. Biden's horrific debate performance, questions about his age, Hunter Biden, doesn't any of that count?
No, there has to be at least some bipartisan recognition of actual corruption that implicates the president himself and not a family member. So the key remains true.
God, he's such a nerd.
So,
He's
2
such a
false
nerd,
and
dude.
7 true so far.
This is the
Looking pretty
nerdiest
good for the
motherfucker that
Democrats.
exists.
We have 4 keys left,
Yeah.
all of which would have to be false for Trump to have a path. Number 10. The incumbent party candidate is charismatic.
This is a very high threshold key. You have to be a once-in-a-generational,
Yeah, this has to be a
broadly
JFK
inspirational candidate.
level guy.
Harris has not met that standard.
she's
so
just
this
not
key
that.
is false.
Not that
Number
charismatic.
11. The challenger is
Bernie
uncharismatic.
Sanders could
Some
flip that
people
key,
think
for
Donald
instance.
Trump is a god, but he only appeals to a narrow base. So that key is true.
But wait, that means...
The Democrats will hold on to the White House, and Kamala Harris will be the next president of the United States.
But wait a sec, Alan. We still have 2 keys left. The foreign policy keys?
You're right. Foreign policy is tricky, and these keys could flip. The Biden administration is deeply invested in the war in Gaza, which is a humanitarian disaster with no end in sight. But even if both foreign policy keys flipped false, that would mean that there were only 5 negative keys, which would not be enough for Donald Trump to regain the White House.
So I guess that means you're standing by your prediction.
Kamala Harris will be the next president of the United States. At least that's my prediction for this race. But the outcome is up to you. So get out and vote.
This image that I paused on is insane. But look, Alan Lichtman, I just want to say, just for some context, I don't trust entirely. And I think everybody should take his prediction with a grain of salt. Because, you know, the things that he is talking about are correct. I mean, there's a lot of what he talks about with his, you know, not reading into polling data and not reading into, you know, a lot of the stuff that we're focused on in politics. And I agree with some of that. But I won't necessarily agree that a lot of people necessarily care about things like the Inflation Reduction Act and the CHIPS Act and the Climate Accords. I like all of those things personally, but that doesn't mean the average voter does, and I don't think that they necessarily mean anything. I'm not saying that his keys are wrong, I'm just saying maybe the keys are taken as kind of an indicator rather than an actual prediction. I do like Alan Lichtman as a guy, but this is maybe a little bit too overzealous with his prediction here. Maybe I'm wrong, though, and I hope he's right, and I hope that Kamala Harris wins, but we will see. This freeze frame of him is just absolutely goofy.
Well, I
So you
guess
got
that
anything else to
settles
say?
that race.
Wow.
But what about the one we started with?
Well, I won some medals, I didn't get hurt, and I qualified for the 2025 National Senior Olympics.
Let's go.
Not bad for a 77-year-old, huh?
No, not bad at all, Alan. Okay, well, thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. It's a very interesting video, and like I said, take everything that Alan says with a grain of salt, but it's a good indicator of what might happen. And, you know, he was right about Trump winning in 2016. That's more that can be said than a lot of people, because a lot of people was like, Clinton's got it. But no, it didn't work out that way, and Trump won. Trump won big. So, you know, thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed this, like, a little bit of a reaction. If you enjoy this sort of content, let me know. Like and subscribe. Thank you, and enjoy.